Hey everyone, welcome back to the Popcorn for Dinner podcast, and we are here to discuss Loki season 2, episode 6, the season 2 finale, maybe the series finale. And yeah, just a big episode for Loki, for the multiverse saga, everything. And we've got amazing guests here to discuss that. So we're excited to get into that. Before that, thank you for joining us on Popcorn for Dinner. Please check out all the other episodes we've got. We've got episodes on Gen V's first season, which is now done, including an amazing finale. We're now covering Invincible weekly. And also on the Is This Cinema podcast, we've got an episode on David Fincher's The Killer. We've got an interview with the director and producer of Untold Stories, Hair and Set. And we've also got an episode on Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. So yeah, just check out our feed. You'll probably find shows you like, movies you like, recommendations, all sorts of amazing stuff. But again, with no further ado, we're here to talk Loki season 2, episode 6, and it's a big one. So we brought all the big guns. We've got all our guests here. It's a full house. So I'm gonna go around the table. So first, you've not seen them since probably the first episode of this season of Loki we did. We've got TJ Fat Thor back. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm super excited to get down and nerdy with this new episode of Loki because, this was a crazy one.
Honestly, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then we've also got another guest who you guys are probably familiar with. He's been with us through some of the crazier stuff in the multiverse at the moment. The editor in chief at Streamer, Mo. Welcome back, Mo.
Welcome back to my podcast.
Oh man.
Oh god.
So it's too early for us to be going off the rails. But yeah. And last guest, the other series regular here, we've got Jeremiah. Jeremiah, how you doing?
I'm good. Hey guys, glad to be back again. Oh
Nice,
yeah.
nice, nice. Cool, guys. So let's get into it. What are our general thoughts of the episode? Like, just brief, clip notes version. We think it was good. Surely, no one thought it was bad. But yeah, just round the table. Jeremiah, start us off. What do you think?
That is a bold statement. Surely no one thought I'm joking. It was good. I think loss, like we're dealing with a lot of loss in this episode and just coming to terms with everything that we've been discussing. I mean, we'll get into this over our discussion, but it seems like they made sure, especially within that first half, to try and answer all the questions that we had before letting us
hmm
know it's all pointless
hmm
and then showing us that we're dealing with a lot of loss. And it was a very good episode. It was a very dark, heavy episode, but at the same time, it was beautiful to watch. So yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, no, definitely, it was amazing. Mo, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was a nice way to cap off 2 seasons of pretty good TV, and set up a lot of stuff whilst also not kind of overextending itself
Yeah,
and delivering and promising more than it could deliver. I think it was a really nice conclusion to the second season.
yeah, no, definitely. I think like just what you said of like capping it off. I think this was like the perfect Disney Plus show, right? Of like, in a future movie, we could pick up with where we leave Loki here, and it's like if you know, you know, and if you don't, you can just accept it, kind of thing. And it just really fleshes out a lot of stuff, and I think yeah, no, that's perfect. TJ, what do you think?
I just got to echo what everyone else said. I loved this episode. It was deep and nerdy, which is what I love. We got Loki, like, kind of coming to this full realization of himself and taking over the mantle of God of Stories, which he has in the comics.
hmm
And the storytelling was just so well done, I think. And like you guys both said, I just think it was the perfect ending to this chapter that we've been experiencing in the MCU. And I can't wait to see more Loki. I know people are talking like, "Oh, is he going to come back?" But I can't wait for more.
Yeah, no, I feel like at this point, like I don't know, I feel like you can have it both ways, right? If we see him again, I think it'll be amazing. It'll be just one of those things where it's like, again, like if you're clued in, you're clued in. But then if we don't as well, I think it's also nice to see like he's kind of working from the shadows and doing all the cool stuff. And yeah, I just think it was just a perfect place for the character. Um, but yeah, before we go into obviously that amazing ending and everything, we kind of pick up from again what we kind of predicted at last episode. I think it was just Jeremiah and myself on, and we're like, "Are we gonna get Groundhog Day?" And Eric Martin was like, "Oh, they can predict one Groundhog Day, but how about two?" So we ended up with Groundhog Day on the loom exploding, and then we basically went to Groundhog Day of the end of season one again. Um,
And the
oh,
start.
did we see the start of season one again? Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
did actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, with Mobius. Yeah,
yeah.
so again, that just kind of gave it like that. Again, I said at the top as well, like a series finale feeling, right? Like we almost kind of took a trip down memory lane, which sounds ridiculous for a show that's only been 12 episodes, but it just goes to show you like how much has happened and how much of the journey and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna open it up. Like, what were our kind of favorite bits from that Groundhog Day? How quickly did we go? Okay, this is what's happening. This is, this is. I feel like there were certain lines they kept repeating, right? Like Victor Timely stuff is like, oh, why him? And then he's like, no, it's supposed to be and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. It was just one of those things where I think they did it so well, where they just kind of got to the right point where a bit more would have been a little annoying. Like we get the point, but then it was
Hmm.
enough of like, okay, this is frustrating. I think at the moment where he was like, I'm gonna just learn everything about quantum mechanics or whatever, was where I was like, right, we've taken this to another level. But yeah, what did you guys think about Groundhog Day?
I
Jeremiah,
thought
what
it
about?
was.
Oh,
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 go
no,
on,
you
go
just
on,
go
go
on.
on, go on.
no, I thought it was a good. Like you said, it got a bit. It could have got frustrating. I think maybe your tolerance is a bit higher than mine because because I found it to be a little bit annoying. But then I checked the playhead and it said like 40 minutes left, so I was like, fine,
Yeah,
whatever. It's not going to be another 40 minutes of this, so I was fine with it at that point. But yeah, I think like you said, him learning everything that he needed to learn to become the Loki who remains at the end of the season. Just,
ooh, I like that.
I mean,
You
Mobius said
trademarked
it.
that.
Mobius
Yeah,
said it. Mobius said
mm,
it.
true.
But yeah, the Loki who remains at the end of the season. I thought it was good. And everyone always says that these MCU shows don't ever have people learning and people like growing
Hmm.
into their power. And I think
Hmm.
we've seen like 12 very intense episodes of Loki just on this journey.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
yeah,
I thought
no,
it was
like
very cute.
yeah, I think I echo your thinking as well because it was like I think when we started doing the Groundhog Day with the season one ending and like oh the only way to stop me is to kill me and stuff. I was like, is this gonna be the whole episode? I literally had to pause and just see how far along we were because I was like, surely it's not just gonna end and he's just gonna stab her and then that's where we end on some sort of cliffhanger. I was like, I can't take another cliffhanger to be honest. But yeah, Jeremiah, what did you make of it?
I mean, I agree that what you just said would have been very frustrating. I can imagine that. Because yeah, there was a point where I was like, but what's actually going to be the meat? Like, we know what the meat of the episode is, but what's gonna actually solve the problem here?
Hmm.
But for me, when it started, I liked it because I love seeing things like this. Mainly because one, obviously, for the viewer, it's like, yeah, you're seeing that they've done this before, and then you're seeing certain characters play the same role and they say the
Hmm.
same thing they would have said before, and you're like, oh, so this was really written. There's that feeling of it almost makes but this is where the problem might be for some people because it kind of makes the characters into toys. It's like it reminds me of like Westworld where there's a character that has played through that whole mission
Mm.
before, and then it knows exactly what the host is going to say and blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
it kind of makes everybody else around Loki feel like a toy at that point because they're expendable, they are being repeated, but then at the same time it gives you that depth of just how long it's been for Loki because with each iteration you're seeing him get increasingly frustrated to the point where even when Timely is walking down the gangway, I'm like I can see how frustrated Loki is because he's really saying one step at a time. He's like at that like this is someone that has been working at it for centuries at this point. So of course he's impatient at this point. It makes sense. I liked seeing little things picked out like that. So for me, it was fun. Um, and even when it switched over to the one with Sylvie, that's when it got darker because it's like shit, like so he actually has to undo everything that like this is a lot, but it was still good to see one his mastery of time because one thing we didn't get, like we're talking about this whole journey he's going through,
Hmm.
is we also now missed we missed centuries. We don't know how many centuries. We missed centuries of Loki's growth. We got it all like sandwiched into 5-10 minutes of
Hmm.
repeating a loop, but he wasn't repeating the exact same thing. But the episode does enough around that to show you that Loki grows a lot through those iterations. Loki goes
Hmm.
from someone who doesn't understand anything about theoretical physics and quantum mechanics to someone who's competing with Obi. Loki goes from someone who just learned how to control his time slip into whatever the god of stories basically is at the end, because that is an immense power jump again. But it's believable because they show us enough of how long he's been doing this, so much so that he's even going not tit for tat, but like he's really sparring with He Who Remains again. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think also like this is going to be the first of many shout outs I give to Eric Martin and his writing team. But like
Mm.
in stories like this, it's very easy to like lose the logic, of like what's going on. Like, okay, like I wouldn't lie to you. We're gonna talk about a point at some point where like Loki's grabbing the branches and powering them up. I'm like, I kind of don't really know what's happening here, but
Yeah,
I'm still emotionally invested. And I think like that's always the thing with these stories. Like if it's fighting vampires, if it's solving timelines, whatever. The key thing is that you should still keep that emotional investment because once the movie loses that, then you don't really care what's happening. Um, TJ, I'm gonna come to you now. Like talk to me about like again, we talked about the Groundhog Day and stuff like that. But do you find that like through that it kind of almost made Loki a bit more endearing? And do you feel like also I think also one thing I wanted to mention was this was so easy and I was scared like we'll just fall into a pitfall of like we'd skip so many steps. So it's like would people still behave the same way? Like like at the end he's just literally rushing Victor, like, yeah, you're gonna do it and that and that. But like he never had all those moments with OB, the hot cocoa, and all these kinds of things that made him actually care about these people to want to do anything. So it's like, how do you feel about how they navigated that? Did they really get you in the feels, or was it just like, right, let's get this on the road?
Nah, I mean, I think it definitely got me in the feels, and I think at least for me, I thought they did a really good job with, like you guys were saying, the kind of line of, okay, we need to stop this, it's getting too much, and giving us enough to go through that kind of emotional journey. But I enjoyed it for a couple of different reasons. One being, like you guys talked about, the kind of character growth that Loki's able to go through just from replaying these different scenarios. And I also really love it for the sense of when he comes to the confrontation of having to kill Sylvie and like
Hmm.
struggling with that, because at least for me, I've always taken the relationship between Sylvie and Loki as like a representation of loving yourself and accepting
Yep.
yourself. So in the end, when he's confronted with having to kill her, I take that as like he has to kill himself, which we kind of do see in this episode in a kind of metaphorical way. So I thought the way that they used the kind of Groundhog Day dynamic to highlight those themes was super, super smart, and I really enjoyed it. And also, I love too just the realization again, it was he who remains, he paved the road, like we've been on this road this whole time, orchestrated by this guy. And I just again I love that.
Yeah, no, like it, when we get into that, like it's just like you just said, it was just really like great to watch. Let's get into that confrontation with He Who Remains. Right, we find out the Loom is just a fail safe. We come to the choice of Sylvie of like, you're gonna have to kill me, and we get into it. It again. You can hear me breathing this because I'm about to talk about Jonathan Majors, but it's basically like an acting tour de force between him and Tom Hiddleston when they're going back and forth and going a few rounds about, you could do this. I paved the road. This is all me. How long did it take you to figure this out? All of this stuff. It was just like I couldn't write a lot of notes, but it was just beautiful to see on screen. It's just like just this air of like he who remains being so smug and quote unquote inevitable that he knew even bloody doing the Victor Timely stammer and mocking him for it. Like,
Yeah,
did
what
you
a
find
little. I can't swear on this, can I? I can't swear.
I don't know,
Wait,
man.
we
Go for it.
can't.
Yeah, I
I feel
mean,
like you
you
can.
saw my tweet. I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I was just like, fucking damn it, because he was such a little bitch. Honestly,
Honestly,
I was so
honestly,
So
pissed.
rude.
I was so pissed off. I was like, come on, that's like, I'm sure that's ableist or something.
like, definitely.
Like,
And it's like mention of himself as well. Like he just comes
yeah,
across as such a prick. And
yeah,
I'm
I
just
know. I was
and
so
it's like
pissed off.
honestly, like when he did that, I was like, oh my gosh, like obviously he knew about this kid that he's set on this Victor Timely path and everything, and he's just mocking everyone. But yeah, Mo, tell me what did you think about that whole chat and everything? Like apart from obviously Hero remains being a fucking bitch, but yeah,
Nah, yeah, I mean, I thought the chat was nice. It was good to have it all explained. I think what the show needed desperately was a bit of an exposition dump.
yeah,
So I was glad that we got that, and I didn't really see it as setting up anything, more
no,
so just recounting the events from an objective-ish perspective.
hmm
Uh, so I thought it was good to have that bit of clarity, and I really liked the Loki's little. How do you know we haven't had this conversation before? No, that moment that he had there, that was a wait, is your mic gonna fall now? Because that was the mic drop moment.
Oh no.
nah, nah,
No.
but like,
It
no,
survived.
like that was honestly as well. Like when Loki paused time, I was like, all right, come on, show him what you got. Because he was so condescending as well. He kept calling him kiddo. Like, bro, like he's a god as well. Like, I know you've
Yeah,
done your stuff with the timeline, but
this
kiddo
is
is a
like an
bit.
actual god.
It's like kiddo is a bit extreme. Um, I felt for Sylvie as well, right? She was just literally an NPC at that point. Um,
What? Oh, oh, I
But
got.
this
Ooh,
is what I mean about toying with the characters at this point. Like everyone becomes a toy, an NPC at this point.
is it
right,
It's
Mo,
fine.
you
sexist?
got. Oh God.
No,
I mean, Mobius, Obi, Casey, they're all involved too. Like
no,
everyone.
no, no. But I
Well,
do
it's
like the
Jonathan
idea.
Majors, isn't it? That's why. That's why you have to ask.
Fast.
I do like the. Oh shit! No,
Oh,
no. But I do like the idea that Sylvie is the only Loki in the timeline now, because she
Ah,
never had. She had this identity that she had to like get rid of because
yeah.
she hated being a Loki. But now
hmm
she's literally the only Loki in the timeline.
Ah,
do I know that?
that is true.
You
Actually,
do because
at least on the sacred timeline or
yeah,
whatever.
or on the 616 timeline, she is the only Loki.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant like. Sorry, I read it on the timeline. I guess you can say on the timelines. Like
No,
they're still
if
both.
she's the only one in the multiverse, that would be
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it would have made
No,
sense. Yeah,
no, she's the only Loki on the 616 timeline
fair
now,
enough.
which I think is kind of nice ending for her. And so when I see everyone saying, "Oh, Sylvie didn't get a happy ending," what they mean is Sylvie didn't get to kiss Loki. That's what they mean. But
I mean, was it a happy
yes,
ending?
I am subtweeting somebody here, by the way.
Oh boy,
No, I
shots
did. I
shots
saw the
fired.
tweet, so like I know what you're on about, but
Yeah.
Right,
but
right.
yeah. Anyway,
But yeah,
let's
Jeremiah, I
move on.
wanted to come to you because I wanted to come to you last on the whole chat because I wanted you to have your victory lap because I believe was it in our episode 4 podcast or episode
Victory
3
lap.
where you said the loom was literally just a scam, pretty much. Like it was just a failsafe from He Who Remains, and we're just trying to fix it for nothing. So yeah, you're proven right, basically. So how?
Accidentally.
I think yeah, it's funny because I think it was just one of those things right at the end of the episode where you were just throwing things out and you were like, oh, for all we know, the loom could just be a failsafe or something, like just for him to get his plans off. And I think that still made it into the episode. But yeah,
Pretty much. But that's I'll pick up on that because I'm not sure if everyone already went, but I'll pick up on that because, like I was saying at the start, they answered a lot of questions for us. For example, Mo asked about the device. Like people that thought Obi was a villain, they're like, why did he have to put his head through the device? Like, what if it could have killed him? And Loki answered that. The duct tape was important as well because they needed the duct tape. In the end, they like Loki reminded him, make sure you tape your right thumb and latch the helmet, and all that stuff was
yeah,
important, but all of it was pointless. And that's exactly what the first 40 minutes or so of this episode did is add so much more depth to everything we've experienced so far, because now all of a sudden He Who Remains is even more inevitable and scary than we've ever like considered him to be. At the same time, another thing we pick up in this episode, I'm kind of diverting here, is with Mobius, for example. When Mobius, I love. Maybe I should have saved this for when we brought it up, but I love the conversation that Mobius and Loki have as well.
no, go on, go on.
Because when Mobius says there is no comfort in the TVA in what they
Hmm.
do, then it adds depth to the idea that these people, they're not just evil, mindless beings doing what they're told by the timekeepers.
Yeah,
They actually do have feelings. So imagine just how deep it would have been for them when they realized that the purpose they thought they had was all fake to begin
yeah,
with. It adds depth in that sense, and it's the same thing. And bringing it back to He Who Remains, that I love that scene a lot because there's just so much with time you could do, and fair enough, they're kind of doing the same end game thing where you bring back the villain to a new position in the timeline, and then it's the same villain, and then you fight him off, kill him off. But
mm,
I guess something different about it this time is, again, like you guys were talking about, the growth that Loki has already experienced, and then him coming up, they're exchanging all their, like, Loki showing his powers, like, I can't, like, I think He Who Remains tells him, I can't believe you haven't figured out how to pause time yet, or something like that, and then Loki eventually reveals he's paused time. Personally, I liked all those things, but it just adds, to me, it just added so much more to everything that already existed, which is also the thing where people are like, oh, you completed a season with no real villain. It's like, yes, technically this entire season was Loki on a journey to fix a loom that was always doomed to fail, then come to that realization. But even with that, he still managed to figure out something else to do. And that's somehow, I may have like gone on a tangent here, but that's
yeah,
somehow still powerful. So yeah, I liked it. In terms of victory lap, I don't even know, because my whole thing was, yeah, like, He Who Remains might still have orchestrated all of this. And this is where I'm like, if we have seen him be so inevitable as to avoid death as we saw in season one, I don't know that he's been defeated still. Like
yeah. We just never know, right?
like
Um, you,
yeah.
yeah, go on. Sorry,
No,
I
like I
was.
think I'd have to think and talk. Like we should just move on. But like that's, I don't know that he's been defeated because it just what I mean. Like it adds depth to him because you understand just how inevitable he is, which means we might not be done with him as a character if the show is continuing.
Yeah, I think one thing I noticed was that he definitely did seem proud of Loki on some level, of like, this is almost like his protege kind of thing. But
Mm.
and I think like you mentioned with like, the things people in the TVA deal with and comfort and stuff like that. It's kind of like what people talk about when, you know, when veterans from the army are like come out and it's like, we're just following orders. Were we following orders or were we terrible people and stuff like that? And it's
Mm.
like, it's just that line that people struggle with and stuff. And I appreciate the show for trying to go there and getting Mobius's story as well, like with the kid he didn't want to prune and Renslayer going ahead to do it. But like I said, like you said as well, like it just added a lot of depth to stuff. I'm gonna come back quickly to that choice with Sylvie, and I'm gonna talk to you, TJ, about that. Right, like it's something that comes up a lot in like comic books and comic book media and things like that, right? Of like, you know, killed a few, saved the many, stuff like that. And Loki is faced with that. Is it like, was that like a turning point for him and like his hero's journey of like, would it have been too easy for him to just decide to kill Sylvie, or what do you think about that whole thing, basically?
I mean, I loved it. Again, going back to the whole kind of differences and similarities between Loki and Sylvie, I think that it really just showed that, like you said, he could have taken the easy way out, right? And killed her and, set everything back. But I think Loki even says this himself in a previous episode, like, hope is hard, right? Like, that's the
Hmm.
hard choice to make, to have hope.
Mm.
So I think that really comes to fruition in this scenario that we have with, like you said, Loki trying to decide if he should kill Sylvie. And I think it just all adds to where we see him end up in the end of this episode, where he takes charge of his own story. So, like we talked about, he's now in the comics, he's called the God of Stories. So, to me, that was him taking charge of his own story and coming to his full realization of his true power of the God of Stories. And like, I won't go on a huge, I could go on a huge tangent about it, but just very quickly, basically where that comes from is, so Loki is the god of lies, right? And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, what is a lie but a story? So in the
Hmm.
books, they take the idea of him being the god of lies as him being the god of stories, which at the end of the day, everything is a story. So I think him coming to that realization is why we see him able to then re I guess re-energize the branches, if you would, because now his
Yep.
power is fully realized, if you would. And
Hmm.
again, I know I could go on a long tangent about that, but I hope that made sense how I explained it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And like, again, it's one of those things where I feel like I can't fully understand it. Like, I feel like Loki had one power set, then it's time slipping, and now there's just a new power set entirely. But like I said, the heart of it goes true, and he randomly gets a new costume. We'll come back to that, which is kind of
Remember,
classic.
So cold,
remember, it's
so cold.
fiction, so it's the why, not the what.
Yeah, true.
If we go with that, because I was thinking the same thing too. Like,
So why did he
did
need a new suit? It's cool, and he can sell action figures, right?
oh wait, if you're good on that one I definitely have questions. But I had that same thing too. It's just like I that's why I tried to explain with the we have to accept that Loki did this for centuries, possibly millennia, because
Hmm.
centuries to just learn the physics, but we don't know how many times he redid the reactor. We don't know how many times he fought Sylvie. Like it was a long time.
Hmm.
But doing all that at the same time is like, uh, what did you learn? How did you grow? And that's where we see like we don't know. We don't. We the episode leaves us with a lot to kind of like figure out with our heads. Like Loki somehow became. We just have to accept. Okay, Loki's the god of stories now, and this is what he's doing now, and focus on the why. Because
Hmm.
yeah, there's
And
gaps.
like, yeah, 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 they're right. Like, what is the emotional like heft of it and stuff like that.
Mm.
The emotional
Um,
heft of it is that he can't eat. He's just stuck holding branches forever and ever.
He could eat the.
has Loki ever had to eat?
I'm sure
These
there was a lot.
these
There
are
was a
the
lot of.
Yeah, I mean,
There
we
these
was
are
a.
should
the
be
There was.
boring
important
at the very
questions.
least.
There was some. I could also go and make this R-rated and say that he gave up
Everything.
everything, everything,
If
all,
you know.
all, all,
I mean,
all
presumably,
mortal
you would
pleasures.
hope that someone watching all timelines gave up everything.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe Sylvie can like I don't know pop up
Visit.
sometime. Yeah, visit every now and then.
God,
She's a
I mean,
Loki.
it
She
could
can
be
she can
anyone.
cover him like annual leave, something like that.
I knew
Like,
I was thinking more something else. I'll tell you in the chat.
No, oh God,
God,
it
man.
could have been anyone. It had to be Sylvie.
Right. We talked about we talked about Loki going back to speak to Mobius, and like it's always been Loki's thing of Loki Odinson, son of Asgard, burdened with glorious purpose. And there's a great line that comes in here that I think
Mm.
it probably kind of capitalizes or like emphasizes the whole arc, right? And it's like most purpose is more burden than glory, and you shouldn't let the burden kind of stop you from the glory. And that was a lot, because it's a lot of this actually ties in very nicely to the Thor we meet in the Kenneth Branagh film. I'm sorry, the Loki we meet in the Kenneth Branagh film, and everything he's going through with Odin and all of that, because that Loki wanted all the glory and no burden whatsoever, right? Like the littlest issue they had, he grasses out Thor straight to Odin. It's like, oh, it was Thor who did it. Father, it's him. He gets his brother gets banished. He doesn't care. All these kinds of things, and then now it's just on the total opposite side. Um, and I think I even saw a video just before, like, we hopped on to record, and it's literally when Odin's casting him out, and it's like, oh, I did this for us, for all of us, basically. And Odin says no Loki, and then we get that pretty much recreated. But it's nice because Mobius says no, and then Sylvie says Loki. So it's just like kind of showing us how he's kind of gone around in a really like amazing arc. And yeah, the whole thing was just, yeah, it was just amazing, and like I just really liked that line. Were there any other lines that stood out to you guys in the episode, or anything like that?
I think that the writing in the scene between Mobius and Loki really, really good. I no lines in particular, just that even in
Dialogue,
the
yeah.
week, even in the weaker parts of the episode, the writing, like when things were a little bit slower, it was just
Hmm.
because it kind of took a break to actually just show off how good of a writer Eric Martin actually is,
Yeah,
because he's so good. He's so
the
good.
dialogue was
So
amazing.
exactly, yeah, just the conversations, and they didn't feel like your standard MCU cringe dialogue at times. They felt very much like it understood the importance of the story that it was telling, and out of everything, it was just really incredibly respectful to the character.
Yeah,
Which, even if you don't like Loki as a character, you have to admit that for people who do like Loki, this show was respectful of him and the journey that he went on for the past, what year is it? Many years.
yeah. I think what,
Um,
like,
over a decade,
four
over
four
14?
was in 2011. So the first Thor
Okay,
movie was
12 years.
2011. So
12
yeah,
years then.
but the MCU is in 2026, isn't it?
Is it?
I don't know. Yeah,
No,
something like that.
in reality,
Oh,
in
okay, okay,
our,
okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, just the amount he's been a staple of the MCU since the very
yeah.
start, and it's incredibly nice to see a character that is so beloved by fans actually get treated with the
With
importance.
respect.
Yeah,
And I think the
so
actor as well. I think Tom Hiddleston just clearly loves Loki, and it's so weird that in another timeline he probably gets to play Thor, and just that's it, because that's who he originally auditioned for.
Wow.
It just goes to show you how these things just work out. And yeah,
what what I do want to say though is that I hope they don't undo the position that the character is in down the line.
yeah, I
I
hope not.
don't think they. I know. I don't even know if they can. I mean, they can, but like no one will accept it. I think if anything, they wanted to give us a Loki that wasn't that character. It would have to be a completely different Loki. But do we want to go through another journey of seeing another Loki? Like we like this one.
I think the way that you can do it is if you step in just before he gets killed in Endgame, and then you take that Loki with all of the character just before he gets killed in Infinity War, and then you take that Loki with all of the character development there, so you're not starting off from like a 2012 Loki.
Yeah, so but
So
it would
that's
still be different to this Loki in a sense.
so that's something I wanted us to go around the table and see, right?
Mm.
We're obviously gonna talk more about, like, obviously how Loki ends up, but just as we're talking about the show and as this come up, right? Who had the better arc, like the original Loki, who Thanos killed, or this one? To you
This
guys,
one, this one,
this one. So
this
it's
one.
unanimous,
This
right?
one,
I
hundred
thought
percent.
Yeah,
it's unanimous, right? So like everyone,
Yeah, the
I,
show, the
I was
show.
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that this series makes the best case for the MCU on Disney Plus than any
Yeah,
other show.
yeah,
Like you get
I,
to spend so much time and the
mm.
week to week theorizing, getting to know the character through other people's
mhm.
analysis and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. I literally have on my notes that this is the perfect Disney Plus show because, like you said, it's fleshed out Loki. It's built up on stuff. It's given us new mythology, like the TVA timelines,
Mm,
multiverses. It's given us new mythology. It's fleshed out an old character, and it's done it in such a way that, like I said, like if there's something going on, like I don't know, Avengers Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars, right? And they need to go to I don't know where he is, the heart of time or whatever, and they just go there and foresees Loki. Like it's almost like people. I feel like in the movie theater you just accept that, but then also like we who've seen that journey, like it just has so much like heft to it. I think the only thing I can compare it to was when Red Skull showed up in Voromir. Like it's like having 12 episodes of like how he got there.
mm.
Ooh, I think I just pictured Disney Plus show. How did Red Skull make it
Please,
to
I
please
say
don't,
you're
please
Voromir?
don't,
cooking
please
right
don't,
there,
please don't.
man. You're
No,
cooking.
no, 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 no. We don't need that. We
Maybe
don't
we
need
don't
that.
need to see that, but I get, yeah, like we get the point. It's probably exactly like that.
Wow, no love for Red Skull.
It's
No
more
love for a retroactive Disney Plus show that we don't need.
like it doesn't really add anything to the
Come
MCU
on,
story at all.
come on. We watched Secret Invasion.
Yeah, because we thought it was going to
And
be good.
we keep pretending like we didn't.
I mean, Marvel
To-
pretended it didn't happen.
oh yeah.
At this point, whatever that timeline is, I just have to assume it's gone. Like maybe Loki was like, you know what, I'm not gonna pick you up. I'm just gonna leave.
Loki just starts like he just like peers into it and just starts like picking at the
Like
branches.
Sylvie would know. Sylvie
Like, I'm
would
gonna
know.
let
Don't
that
worry
one
about
die.
this.
It's like, yeah, just spin that off.
I do want to say really quickly,
Yeah,
going
go
off
on.
of Mo's point of respecting the character and like showing respect to Loki as a character. I mean, especially this last episode, coming from the comic book side, this was
Mhm.
just an absolute love letter to Al Ewing's Loki run,
Yeah.
which this show is like heavily influenced by. Not one-to-one translation, but this is where the God of Story stuff comes in. So I
Mm,
think again, just to go off of Mo's point a little bit more, I think they did an excellent job with translating Loki's journey from the comic books, taking the important stuff and giving it to Tom Hiddleston to really flesh out the character of Loki in the MCU like he is in the book. So I think A+ job in that regard.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was like great. Um right, let's so what I'm thinking now, let's wrap up what plot we've got here and then we can do some theories. We can maybe get some more comic book knowledge from TJ on what's coming up next and keep it going. So, Um, we get to the point. He has the conversation with He Who Remains. He realizes everything, and Loki just goes out into what's that thing called? Where the loom is, basically. I forgot what it's called. Um, and yeah, we get the new suit. We get the score swelling. We get the powers. We get the branches kind of dying for a second. We get Loki energizing it, and yeah, we basically see him take control of all the timelines and basically almost become the loom, or yeah, like the living loom, like the one looking after everything, like the custodian of the MCU, effectively.
mm.
And things seem to be fine. The TVA is back. Weirdly, there's a lot. I had a question about this. So there's a lot more people in the TVA than we've ever seen. Like, are they picking up variants? Are people signing up? Is there a recruitment drive? Is there do they offer pensions now? Like, what? I don't know. Like, suddenly there was just so many people in the TVA.
They
Do we
do
have
it
any
better.
theories on that, or just
They do
people who
it
can sign up?
better, but also maybe since they're no longer, I assume they haven't started hunting the Kang variants yet. They are aware of some of them, but
Hmm.
let's just assume Sylvie is no longer picking up people and killing them. Like how many thousand or hundred hunters had she
Fair.
killed over time? Things like that. I don't know. But again, also with more variants as well, you have to assume Kang, in building out the TVA, picked variants that he thought were useful to his
Hmm.
TVA. So, with an infinitely growing multiverse, there will be more useful people as well, like over time. So, maybe that's what we keep seeing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like, are they getting their consent now, or are they just kidnapping them like they were before? Basically,
I hope so, but I would
but
assume
yeah,
so.
yeah, Mo.
Yeah, you said about Kang. Kang doesn't exist anymore because they said it that a 616 timeline, there was a Kang of variant causing trouble in an adjacent 616 realm,
Realm.
and that
So
yeah,
that's Quantumania. Yeah.
that's Quantumania Kang. So he's dead now.
Yeah, but there are variants
But
of
He's
but
Is
they
he
defined
but they,
though?
but
Is he
universes.
though?
well,
but they
yes,
did.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's dead. He's dead because. But I just want to say that
I'm gonna push back on that.
I'm going to push back on your pushback because
Oh boy.
it's the perfect opportunity to just get rid of Jonathan Majors now.
Well, yeah.
You can say that they killed all the Kang variants and then you change the Kang dynasty to the Kang legacy and that's it.
Hmm. Hmm. I think you can easily just get rid of Jonathan Majors, right, and just cast someone else, and
At
they're all
this
the same.
point, yeah, they've made it a lot
Um,
easier to do that.
Well, I mean, we
but
know
like
that
they,
not all variants look like each other, so I feel
I
like we
mean,
don't really
except for the
need a
Kang ones
huge
that we saw at the end of
explanation. Just
Quantumania.
ask someone else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
Quantumania literally had that scene where it
yeah,
was like
that's the thing.
No,
every
yeah, I
one of
mean, yeah,
them.
we saw thousands of Kangs that look like Jonathan Majors, but the multiverse is infinite. There's infinite
yeah,
Kangs. And
Yeah,
again, we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home, we have Toby, Andrew, Tom Holland. Those three, obviously are three different people. So
we've
I
also
think
seen with
while it
Victor
might be a little
Timely.
jarring, you could just make it as simple as, yeah, well, the thousands of Kangs we saw in Quantumania, they look like Jonathan Majors, but not all of them do. They're again, it's
Well,
an
the other
infinite
one's
multiverse.
waiting outside of the stadium.
the one hating from outside the club.
They're waiting at the gate.
Yeah, bro thinks he's part of the team.
But
I'm
no,
just
it's
saying
like
they could do it. And it doesn't have to be this huge explanation of like, oh, this is what
Yeah,
happened. You know what I mean? Like they've
yeah,
set it up in a way to where we can just kind of okay, just don't think about it, right? Like just put that
yeah.
away.
I, I
I
feel
think,
like
but like
everyone
that's the
will have
thing.
yeah.
I think they just kind of painted themselves in a corner, right? Because, like you mentioned, like they haven't been consistent with it, right? So every Doctor Strange we've met is Benedict Cumberbatch. Every Baron Mordo or whatever is Chiwetel Ejiofor.
yeah, but
Every Spider Man is different.
this
Every
is the
Kang,
thing.
like, and they showed us thousands with
Yeah,
Jonathan
but this is the
Majors.
thing I have about that. Like when you, because I think Multiverse of Madness kind of ventures a little bit. Like we get a snapshot of this concept a little bit in Multiverse of Madness. Because I was seeing
Hmm.
this video and one time was someone was talking about all these multiversal stories tend to only show you universes that are just like the universe you just left, and it's like, well, to me that whole video was like a lot of nonsense because in my head I'm like, well,
Oof.
of course
Name
it's
and
going to
shame.
be. Of course, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember who did it, but like, of course, it's going
What?
to be similar if we're looking for a story where I made a different choice. That means we have to look
Hmm.
for a universe where I exist, the same person. Maybe the different choice was 3 days ago for me. Of course, it's going to be exceedingly similar. The different choice wouldn't have affected the Nazis losing the World War in 19 whatever. Like those things are going to be the same,
1945.
right? No, I know, but I was like, let me yeah, anyway. Like those things are going to remain the same. It's the same way. That's when we were jumping through universes and Multiverse of Madness. We got like a glimpse of universes that must have diverged from way, way back. Like when you think about it, the number of universes where any one character exists will be minute, negligible in an infinite like universe. And we've seen examples of different Peter Parkers born at different times. Maybe this person like decided to stay home instead of meeting their like a great grandfather decided to stay home instead of meeting the great grandmother on this day, and now DNA has slightly changed, or a person is born earlier, but obviously because they're not exactly the same person, but like people have the same idea. I'm going to name my kid this. This is Peter Parker. Goes through this like anything could happen in the chaos of an infinite multiverse to create a completely different person, and only a small subset would ever be the exact same person experiencing the exact same life with a slightly different choice. And that's why I think it's fine, because we've seen a lot of Kangs. We just seen let me even say Kangs. Yes, maybe those are all He Who Remains variants that decided to become Kang. Who knows? Um, but we've also seen a variant, for all we know, was suddenly born in the 19th century. He wasn't time traveled. As far as the show has established it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just
He
seems
was
like he
just
just
he was just
happened to
Victor
have been
Timely.
born
Yeah.
there. So there could have been literally any variant of He Who Remains that discovers maybe this variant was never even going to discover the multiverse. Maybe this was like, oh god, this vampire that is now doppelgangers. Forget that one. But Victor Timely existing and Nathaniel Richards. Did they ever name him as that in
No,
this
no, no,
show? They
No.
never
no,
did.
no,
So
no,
Not
no.
yet.
they could
No.
they could even still separate He Who Remains from Kang and say He Who Remains is this person that Jonathan Majors is playing, and ultimately we still get a Nathaniel. Like there's anything they could do. We're going on a tangent here,
So,
but I just think
so,
there's anything they could do.
so you
Who
heard
do
it
you
here first.
recast?
I was
Hmm?
gonna say you heard it here first. Lakeith Stanfield as Kang.
Oh god, that's
Oh
on you. That's
no,
you alone.
no,
That's you and
no,
you alone.
no.
But yeah, maybe let's get back into the episode. I think I don't even know
I
when.
want John Boyega. John Boyega.
I
I
mean,
said John
you
Boyega
seem to
before,
not
but then
like
I
that
got
one
shut
when we
down.
said it.
I said it and like a couple of episodes
Yeah,
ago, bro, and
Mo
you
said
shut me down for
no.
it. So
I
I
didn't
went with
say
Lakeith.
I didn't shut you down, did I?
We both
Hundred
said it,
percent.
and you said no.
No,
Instead,
because that's the. Oh, is it
That's
racist?
why. That's why I went Lakeith Stanfield.
No, 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 no. John Boyega is like the obvious choice, but I want to see them go more avant-garde. Maybe take what's that guy from who was in Quantumania and he was in The Good Place and I don't know his name.
oh,
William Jackson Harper.
Yes, him,
yes,
William Jackson Harper.
I
Put
He
love
him.
him,
keeps
but like,
everyone
no,
wants him to be Mr. Fantastic, but
really,
No, he's not enough of a dick to be Mr. Fantastic. But
he's a good actor.
he could play evil Kang, but
Mm.
he could
as
play evil,
opposed
just not
to
like as opposed to like dickish. Like I'm a bit of a dick, but I'm not a bad person, I don't think.
Yeah,
Kang.
that's why people
Whereas
wanted
Kang
him to
probably
cast
thinks
Matt
he's not a
Smith.
Kang probably thinks he's not a bad person. Thinks he's just making the hard choice ultimately. Isolating the timeline.
I do
Right.
want to say really quickly about like He
Yeah.
Who Remains and like being a bad person. What we're talking about here is
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm not even gonna get into like the recasting stuff. Like that's a whole other topic of discussion. I just mean the character himself.
yeah,
And so so we've seen a Mortis variant of Kang, but
Yeah.
for the MCU, for all intents and purposes, He Who Remains is kind of playing the role of a
Of
Mortis from the
comic book
comics.
Immortus. Yeah.
And so Immortus in the comics, at least from my understanding and how I read it, is like he's not good or bad necessarily,
Yeah.
but what Immortus is it's the version of Kang that has fully realized himself. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
version of Kang that has finally stopped getting in his own way. So like that's
Yeah.
one of the major things of Kang is Kang always defeats himself. So I think
Yeah.
as far as He Who Remains as a character, I think that we're definitely going to see more of him, and I don't think this is the end of him. And I think his whole, like we're talking about, like his whole motivations of like playing this whole game and stuff, I don't think it's necessarily a question of right or wrong, right? It's more of an ethical question. I think there's not really a right answer to it, like
Mm-hmm.
if what he's doing is right or wrong. So like I said, I just
mm,
want to put that point out there. I don't think
No.
He
Yeah.
Who Remains is completely gone. I think there's still, again, he paved the road, right? Like there's
Yeah.
more to go. Even though Loki is in this position of the Loki Who Remains, there's still more to that story there, I think.
Yeah.
the
I
f-
think it's fascinating you brought up Immortus because I feel the same. I think I mentioned when we recorded season one that like that for all intents and purposes that was Immortus to me, like the purple and stuff.
mm,
But then in the Quantumania scene where we get all the thousands of Kangs, there is an Immortus there who's basically in charge. And I'm like, he's like the biggest dick of all. So I'm like, I don't know, the
Yeah.
MCU is definitely doing something different.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of
But
splitting the characters a little bit and
mhm.
giving the qualities of each other to. I mean, we haven't seen a Mortis fully realized yet, like you said, for like 2 seconds. So who knows if we'll get to that actual variant and see the similarities between He Who Remains.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess also with the thing, sorry, before we went on this whole tangent, I think the whole thing was like the TVA is monitoring variants of He Who
application
Remains, right?
progress.
And we got told, what's it called? We got told the one in 616 in the realm, basically the one from Quantumania had been dealt with. but it means they're still watching the other ones, right? But none of them is yet a threat.
Well,
So I wonder that's what we're kind of seeding, I think, for the future.
Well, if you think about it, though, so the whole reason for the TVA originally, when He Who Remains created it, was to stop other Kang variants in the
Hmm.
multiverse from arising,
Yeah.
right? And if you think about it, at the end of this, we're basically back to the same status quo. That's what the TVA is still doing. They're still pruning Kang variants. So again, going back to the whole idea of like, is this still part of He Who Remains plan? I mean, again, it seems like their mission is the same ultimately. It just now it's a little bit
Uh,
more democratic and they're not, controlled by the timekeepers or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're still doing the same thing.
I don't know. I like that, but at the same time, it's like we don't know for certain that they're pruning. We know they're monitoring, so it might be a thing where they'll only step in if any
mhm.
of those variants shows like this variant is actually going to try and destroy the multiverse. Because like if they try and take over their universe, like fair enough, that's their choice in their timeline. Going by Sylvie's ethos or whatever, like they probably shouldn't interfere. They would only interfere if that person threatens the entire multiverse, which kind of makes sense. Um, but I just thought, yeah, actually, I'll stop there and gather my thoughts. But just on that, I like that explanation to that point.
Yeah, no, definitely that covers it.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great explanation on how it's back to its original purpose. It's like an Ouroboros.
In
Snake eating its
Ouroboros,
own tail.
baby, it all comes back to the Ouroboros. It's a
Oh
Yeah,
cycle.
yeah,
like
that's what I was going to
the
say.
episode title is called Glorious Purpose, the same as the season one episode one title,
One,
Glorious
yeah,
Purpose.
episodes a full circle.
It's all an
And
Ouroboros.
around we go, gentlemen. Around and around we go.
Around we
On
go.
sorry, on whether on that as well. To me, on the question of whether this is all still part of his plan, I think if we're ever to see this particular He Who Remains variant, it's very easy to do because in the same way this is what I was talking about his inevitability or whatever. In the same way we
Ovation.
watched him die in
Hmm.
season one, only to find out that he is very well aware of that death. A version of him does die. Um, I'll come back to this actually, but a version of him does die, and he's aware of that. But he's already set in place enough of a plan to know that eventually it will come back to just before he dies, and Loki has to save him. And then we see Loki. First of all, I remember putting in my notes: Loki discovers canon events. Like this is the first
Mm,
thing.
has to
It
happen.
it just had to happen. But like Miles, Loki also realizes that there's always a way to break a canon event. He goes on and breaks the loom. But if He Who Remains can do that, then what's to say he can't also just peek to see what Loki does? Oh, he actually does break the loom. Okay, time for Plan D. Like he's
Yeah.
inevitable. He's He Who Remains. He's just always going to be there. It's like Ira Thorn and uh Arrowverse. He's just
Um,
always going to be
DC.
there. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
Stop
no, like
bringing up the CW. That's twice now.
I mean, to be
That's
honest, like
that's twice
that's
now.
for
That's
well,
twice
yeah.
now. You brought up Vampire Diaries and you brought up Arrowverse. You bring it up again, and then I'm taking over your position in here.
Right. Just a few more things we had. Like, so after everything kind of goes down, Loki settles in. We get an epilogue basically for most of our characters. Mobius gets to kind of meet Don, which is interesting.
Mm.
Sylvie's chilling out. She has a temp pad, so I assume she's still chilling with the TVA. TVA is going on. We get to see Loki, and then we get to see. Oh my god, Miss Minutes is back. That just doesn't look like it's going to
Told you
end well.
guys.
But and then we get to see Ravonna, and I think this is the closest thing to a cliffhanger we've got, right? And there's just like purple light in front of her. We do see a pyramid next to her for a second, and then on the ground we see the TVA thing for all time, always, because they actually made the point to foreshadow that and show us in the thing before.
Mm.
So, what do we think is going on with Ravonna? Where's the
She's
purple
gonna
light?
get
Where is she?
eaten. She's gonna get. She's in the void. She's been pruned.
I disagree with the Eaton
Hell
thing.
nah, man. She's
I think they
chilling, dude.
made
I
they
think
made
she's
it
in
a,
a
they
way
made it
better
a point.
position.
Yeah, they
What?
made it a point to
What?
show
Yeah.
us that she has a lot of things she recognizes around her. And now that you mentioned that it's a pyramid, hell, maybe she meets a he who remains variant. That's one of there was that pharaoh
There's
looking
the
one that
Pharaoh one. Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I was
like
thinking.
maybe
Yeah.
No,
she meets
no,
someone.
no. You no. My God, you guys do no. Incorrect. Incorrect.
All right.
My
You're
one
all.
thing was I'm glad we got to see that scene because throughout the finale I was thinking, so you mean Renslayer and X5 are just gone like that? Like we
I mean,
don't see
X5
them.
is gone, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, she's only gonna get
X5
eaten
be
if she
pruned though?
can
I don't
if
think
she
he
can't
did.
run.
Oh no, no, but like we just never see him again.
Oh yeah,
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 She's
we
but
only
don't
gonna
see him
get
again.
eaten
No.
if she can't run. She's only gonna get eaten if she can't run.
but remember we were all predicting saying that we'll
So
probably
right,
go to the void, and then I said like it would be funny if we just never go to the void.
so
So I
right,
was scared that that would happen.
But we have
Mo.
to
So you think
remember
it's Eliath? Oh, sorry, I was just gonna
Yeah,
100%.
say, Mo. You think it's Eliath? That's that purple light.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's a lie. It's still there, but I mean, like, and we know that like if she can somehow, but she's got no powers. She's just
Mm,
a human being. She doesn't
but
have
she's
powers.
Renslayer.
Yeah, she's Renslayer, but she's got no powers. She has no
She
temper.
But
has the
Doesn't know.
general that helps he who
Right. Let's
remain
let.
win the
we're
war.
we're
Right.
She
Let's
forgetting
let
might
a
even know
TJ.
how to
huge
control
but in
Goliath.
this conversation.
Right.
What's the
Oh
huge
god.
fuck?
Let's let
So
TJ go.
if we remember, right, in what was it, episode 3, episode 4, we learned that Ravona was there, not only there during the multiversal war, but she was a
She led the army.
general in that
Yeah.
war, and she commanded the armies for that war. And if we also remember going back to season 1, when He Who Remains gives his little spiel, one of the major factors of winning that war was him taming Eliath. And he makes a specific point of that he tamed the beast and brought peace to the multiverse, or however he puts it. So now that we learn that Ravona was actually the leader of these armies, to me, that makes it a very real possibility that she commanded Eliath and she was the one who actually tamed Eliath into the void. So now that she's back into the void, while she might not remember that, Eliath probably does. And I would even go so far as like that could be like her, pet or something. Like a lot like Eliath's like, "Oh, my mom's back," like
I was just gonna
let's
say.
get going, right? So
No, because
I think she's in a way better position than we're left to believe. I think we're supposed to be like, oh, like she's I don't. Sorry, I don't want to swear on here,
Go
but
on, go on, go
I
on.
mean, yeah, she's fucked, right? But I think we're gonna find out she's actually in a better position, and like I said, I think all of that is gonna definitely come into play. And we also have to remember too, there's a gang of Lokis underneath that little TVA symbol that she brushes off. So I mean, we could see her coming back with a gang of Lokis, riding a Goliath, some crazy shit. Like she's not done for sure.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Because like when I said, "Oh, that was that's literally the realization I was making that she was a general." Because I was trying to respond to Mo, and I think, because to me, I didn't see that as a scene where she was in trouble. I thought I saw a smile on her face. In my head, I'm thinking we should be watching her for what she does next. Like if she was just dead and done, they probably wouldn't even bother to show us her in the void. Like realistically, to me, I think like he's absolutely
Yeah,
spot on with that one.
yeah. But again, it's one of
But
these
where's
things
she
where
gonna
you,
show up?
that's what I was gonna say. Like you have to kind of start thinking practically,
It
right?
just depends
Like,
on what story. Like I feel like another thing this show did, in addition to being, I love that you said a love letter to like the Loki run, but also in my head a love letter to all of the MCU. It also allowed itself to end here, but also continue. So this could be the series finale, like you said, Emmanuel, or it could be like, okay, we have a season 3, 4, 5, and she could come back, or she could come back when someone decides, you know what, let's use Renslayer as the villain for this movie. It's possible. Like this, it's one of those things that is potentially set up, but
yeah.
we don't have to follow through. But it's there if we need it.
No way
To be
she doesn't show up
honest,
in Kang Dynasty. No way.
mm,
100%.
Mm.
yeah, that
Do you
makes
still
sense.
think Kang Dynasty is getting made?
Oh yeah,
We're getting into
100%.
philosophical stuff. Yeah, I think it'll get made.
Ooh.
I don't.
Before
I
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say one more thing that because someone said something about the writing, and I realized that I skipped a few things in my notes when we're talking about the Groundhog
Right?
Day
Shoot,
thing.
shoot, shoot.
Like I loved how aware of itself the show was, because even there's a point where he who remains, oh, that's it, Victor Timely goes, "This all feels a bit rushed," and I'm thinking, "Yep, you're right. It does feel that way." Um, but there were little moments in the dialogue like that, where the characters just say something that is very critical or existential to whatever they're experiencing now. And that was also something else. I think someone mentioned, would the characters act the same? And that was something I picked
Yeah,
up
I
as
was
well. Like
mentioning that. Yeah,
even Obi was, I said Obi, Mobius was asking this time, like Sylvie's like, Loki, why are you being weird? Even Miss Minutes has to stop and like, what is going on here? So that all that was very interesting. It was just like things that the writers do for fun. But my absolute favorite line of the entire episode was when Loki basically went, "Fight back, nigga, fight back." Like, what are you doing?
fight back what? Fight back what?
He
TJ,
basically
did you hear
said
what he said?
that.
Did you hear what he said?
Cuts, cuts, cuts.
He
Hey, we need.
basically said that. That's because as soon as he said, "Why aren't you fighting back?" That's exactly what came to my mind. And then that brings us to just a completely new level of what the
Mhm.
episode is. And to me, that line was just perfect. It was great because it worked both ways. I just wanted to like shoot that in before I forget again.
Right. Awesome. 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 All right. Cool. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna give TJ some time to just tell us about that Loki run. Because I know, for the listeners who maybe want to go check out the comic, or for the people who just want to know about this stuff in case it comes back in the MCU. And then we're just gonna go around and say, because we don't know if there's gonna be a season 3, right? Let's just go
There's not
around
going
and
to be a
just
season 3.
yeah. So we just go around and just talk about, like, just list out some of our best moments from these 2 seasons. So TJ, man, the floor is yours. Loki, God of Stories, give us.
All right, let's get into it. So, like I said, the run is going to be from Al Ewing. It's called Loki Agents of Asgard. And I mean, phenomenal run on its own merit. But again, the Loki show takes a lot from this, namely the whole God of Stories aspect of it. And so, like I said before, the whole idea of that is, again, Loki is the God of lies. And at the end of the day, what is a lie but a story? So, when he has all these quote unquote new powers, it's not necessarily he has new powers. It's just that his powers have evolved and have become fully realized to what he can actually truly do in his position as a god. And something that the show I think really did beautifully, and something that the run deals with, is something that's called the ego death. And so at the end of this, when we have Loki uh, what's it called, rejuvenating all of these branches, that is the show's version of this ego death. And what that is it's explained in the run as the absence of self, becoming not, leaving behind attachments, thrones, grudges, powers, and all the old temptations, and leaving behind ignorance. So I
So,
think
like,
at
self-sacrifice, basically.
Exactly. So when Loki takes this new position as the Loki who remains, he is going through that ego death, and that he's in this new position as, again, whatever you want to call it, the god of lies, Loki who remains. But I think that that leads us, it's going to all, this is all going to come back together in Secret Wars. And I think that we can have Loki in the MCU playing a sort of dual role of the sort of beyonder and this whole, he who remains, Loki who remains, watcher of the multiverse. And so that
Ooh.
all comes into play. There's two different Secret Wars. One is just like a big fight between, heroes and villains. The
Yeah,
other deals with the incursion of timelines, which ideally
I think
that's,
that's the one we're gonna get.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what we're gonna get in the MCU for sure for their Secret Wars. But I can see them using this new Loki position as a sort of beyonder type role where he
Hmm.
is observing this battle going on, and I don't want to say maybe,
Picking the
I
best,
think
basically.
I think for me, and I think for the audience, the big question that we're left with this new position for Loki is he influencing the branches, or is he just
Mm.
holding the branches, right? And we see that what Mobius says kind of echoes to him. So we know that he obviously is aware of what's going on. But again, my big question is he actually influencing things, or just passively watching like a watcher would do, right? I think that's going to, the answer to that question is what's going to inform where we're going to see this Loki pop up next. But 100% Tom Hiddleston is not done. We are for sure getting Loki back. And if anything, it's going to have, our heroes are going to have to go to him, right? It's not like he's just going to
Yeah,
pop up
that's what I
like,
thought.
hey, y'all, what's up? Like, I'm the god of stories. It Something's going to happen to where they get to him. And I think that's where we're going to get that Thor and Loki reunion of them
Yeah,
in the sun again.
yeah. So
Did
I
he
think.
look like he? Oh,
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I think we're gonna have something like, when Ford met up with Eitri, Peter Dinklage, basically, like in, was that Infinity War? And that was Infinity War.
Yeah.
Infinity War.
So I think we'll have something like that where, like, oh, we need to go to XYZ person. And it's weird because the Watcher exists in the MCU, but I mean, one of the Watchers was Stan Lee, rest in peace. The other one's obviously Jeffrey Wright in animation, so I don't know if that's crossing over. And then I don't know. So I think, yeah, Loki might just replace the Beyonder probably, which would make sense. I
And I
don't want to
also
get
want to
into
say
that,
too,
but
just
yeah.
really quickly, is I've said this on our Loki after show that we've been doing, but I've been saying for a while that the temporal loom represents Yggdrasil, the world tree, and
Yeah,
we get that
we
fully
got that.
realized in this episode. And I think what they were trying to do is represent that Loki is now technically the world tree of the universe. They're
Hmm.
like using the Norse mythology stuff to explain what is
Just
going
tie it
on.
in. Yeah, I
Exactly. So
appreciated that
yeah,
visual as
along with
well.
the Ouroboros and then the what's it called, the Yggdrasil tree. I think again Loki's kind of playing that role in the sense of he's the world tree holds all the realms together, and like what is Loki doing but holding all of the universes and realms of the universe together.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was poetic. Mo, I
on
cut you off before. Yeah.
when he was out on the little walkway, uh, did you not did he seem like he was getting aged by when he was getting hit by all of that temporal radiation? Like
A little bit, yeah.
I swear he was getting a little bit wrinkly.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that a
I
little
noticed
bit,
that
yeah.
too.
so I was like, okay, cool. Are we gonna get him transforming into Richard E. Grant at the end of it?
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that like he didn't age as fast as like the suit as like his
Hmm.
clothes did, because those are like human made clothes, not gonna last longer than like 50, 60 years. But
Hmm.
then he's a god and he's aging a lot slower because of the
Hmm.
temporal radiation. So I quite like that visual. But
Yeah, no, that was inspired.
but yeah.
I was inspired. Yeah, Moorhead and Benson, props again for the visuals. They were pretty good.
That is
Um,
another. That's Loki. Another question where I had to just say, let's focus on the why. But I kind of did
oh,
have
well, why
like,
he got a new outfit?
well, that and why he didn't turn to spaghetti. Um, because,
Oh,
but then
he's
I
a
just
god.
assume, yeah,
It's
he's
and
he's
it's
a
a
god.
show.
There was that, but I was looking more at like
Protected by
maybe
plot armor.
part of the, yeah, that definitely. But we can try and rationalize it with the idea of, again, centuries. That's going to be my good. Anything Loki can do now, just like over the centuries, he developed his
Figured
powers.
it out.
He figured out how to create uh his suits in a way that it would also be a hazmat suit for the temporal. His new costume is also protects him from the radiation. Of course, it doesn't protect his face, but like you said, he's a god. Because then I was now thinking, so if he could do that, presumably he didn't know he could do that. But if he could do that, why did we spend so many iterations of Victor Timely doing it? But then eventually you're like, well, if he turns to spaghetti, then there's nobody to time slip and fix it.
Nah, I think the Victor Timely thing. I think it was more him saying, thinking he can just make a very small change and just win, right?
Mhm.
Like it's like when you're playing a video game, you try and do
But
the quickest thing possible
this is where I'm
first.
coming to. I love that it was video game, right? That you said, because then at
Hmm.
this point, as much as it's real for Loki, he has to watch the multiverse end multiple times
Hmm.
until he figures out how to save it. It almost gamifies the whole situation for the rest of
Yeah,
the characters except Loki to the viewer, which is why my one thing is like I don't know if the show did enough to let you know, like you should implicitly know this, but every single time Loki did it again, those characters died every
Yeah,
single time.
I think.
The
I think.
Mobius we're seeing at the end is not the
Hmm.
Mobius we were starting with at the start of season two. That because He Who Remains pretty much confirms as much when he says the loom is a failsafe. It basically just destroys everything that is not part of the sacred timeline, including the variants, including the TVA. So all those like it just you might have missed it, but it just slips in
Hmm.
that all those characters really did die, and that's something that I wanted to see coming out of the finale is understanding that we did experience that loss. It wasn't just him going back in time and changing that one timeline. Because if you go back, like they gave us this in Endgame as well. If you go back in time, you're creating a new timeline.
Hmm.
That other timeline previously still exists and still got presumably pruned or destroyed or whatever. Like that's dark to look at it that way. Like in my
But
opinion.
I think it's just one of those things where like the show has to settle on what kind of vibe it wants to give, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't want it to be. I mean, if it's that dark, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god!" Like people are just dying and stuff like that. Like they want you to leave this on a positive note. Obviously,
Mm.
you sit back and you're like, "Okay, that was a lot," you know. Um, but again, the good thing is that it is there for you to see it. It's not like they trivialize it and someone's like, "Oh my gosh, we died 27 times. Can you imagine that?" And start laughing about it. No, like it's there for you to pick up on it. But they just don't sort of dig their heels in. It's
Fair enough.
like people accuse Pixar of doing sometimes of like cry now, like like giving you stuff to make sure you feel sad and things like that. So I
Mm.
think the show was just trying to move on. But yeah, just to wrap up, I was just gonna say, if you guys can give me one or two moments from Loki's run that that was like a big surprise, a moment you're always gonna remember, something like that. Mo, give me one,
Uh,
give me two, something.
Season one, I'd say the finale of season one when you first, because nobody expected to see Kang appear, or
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm.
the actor who was going to play Kang appear
Mm-hmm.
in a Disney Plus show. So that was a huge
Yeah.
surprise, and I'll always remember just him showing up in that elevator eating an apple,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and
that was
that
great.
that that one. And then I want to say the end of episode 4 for this season is just like was just crazy.
Yeah.
That cliffhanger was intense, and TJ and I got it early, and we had to wait 5 weeks for new
For
stuff.
us to
I
catch
can't
up, and you guys
imagine.
were sitting
No,
here
I
looking
cannot
at us like,
imagine.
"Oh, these guys are just excited. They don't know what's coming."
We were, yeah. I think we
It was
messaged
a tough
afterwards, and I
month
was
for
like,
sure.
it was, yeah, it was horrible. That was the worst 5 weeks of my life, but very, very good to see that. I was glad that it followed up, and it was actually better. Like the last 2 episodes, so much better as well. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good stuff. TJ, what are your moments that stand out from Loki's run for you?
Oof. I mean, I gotta go with what Mo said as well. The introduction of He Who Remains will always be. I would see Mo was saying like no one was expecting that. I was full on Kang gang from the beginning of Loki. I was like,
I
he's
want to say,
showing up. People said I was crazy, so when he showed up, I was just like, yes, let's go. So I'll never forget that. And then this season, it's got to be the branches and Loki with the new suit and grabbing all the branches, taking that throne. It was just, from a comic standpoint, it was just so cool to see in live action. The visuals of how they did it was just so cool to watch. And it was again just one of those moments that I for sure am gonna remember for a long, long time, and probably I'd even go as far as saying maybe one of my favorite moments of the MCU as a whole. Like it was just so
Mm-hmm.
great.
It's perfect, man. Jeremiah?
I honestly don't know. I was trying to rack my brain because you guys have mentioned some good moments. I think I just love the show so much. There are so many moments, whether it's like Mobius deciding to go take a look, whether it's He Who Remains revealing that this was his master plan, this was his plan B all along, rather, whether it's
AKA
He Who
your
Remains,
victory lap will obviously be your favorite scene.
or it was He Who Remains even being revealed as the original villain, or it was, to some people, it might have been Loki actually physically coming on and sitting on a throne and being essentially the opposite of what people thought the season one big bad would have been. Like, there's a
Hmm.
Loki at the top of the TVA. There is
Yeah,
one now. Um, there's so many moments in this show that are just like, it's sad to say goodbye. Basically, like that's my own like takeaway. I can't really think of any one thing, because if you ask me now, I'll be thinking of a moment from this episode, but you could ask me on a
yeah,
different day and it'll be completely different. So it was good.
yeah. No, like again, like 12 episodes. So much has happened, right? When you think back to Loki just showing up in that desert when they grabbed him, all the lore that we've gotten to see, the characters we've gotten to see. I think I echo all the moments you guys said. Jonathan Major showing up.
Echo
Um,
Easter egg.
God. But I think the one that you guys didn't mention that will always stick with me was Richard E. Grant's "Glorious
Oh,
Purpose"
very
in
much
the
a love.
Void. Um, that was just great to see, like old Loki, like classic comic book costume Loki, and it not to be like it wasn't like a joke or anything. Yeah, it was just this is a show that I think was made for with a lot of respect and love for the fans.
I think
And yeah,
I think
I
you
really
bring
love
that
it.
up now, but that's essentially what this Loki does as well. Like, maybe whether they did it on purpose or not, that classic
Yeah,
Loki
this is like
sacrifice
an updated
foreshadowed.
version of
Yeah,
the
like
costume. Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, like that moment pretty much foreshadowed this. Like, that Loki gave them a chance to survive by
Hmm.
distracting Elias and casting this powerful
He built
projection.
Asgard. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was his glorious purpose. Whereas this Loki's glorious purpose is sacrificing himself, giving everyone else a chance by holding the multiverse together for all of eternity, or whatever it turns out he's actually doing. As far as we understand it so far, like doing that, making that sacrifice, and giving everyone else a chance. I just think, yeah, like I hadn't noticed that until you mentioned that scene again. Like, it's essentially the same thing that they're both doing, and that is Loki's glorious purpose, to become a god, in the sense that he sacrifices himself and loses.
I do think it's kind of sad that his glorious purpose will never be realized inside a timeline. It's always got to be executed outside of the timeline,
Hmm. But yeah, like,
outside of the confines of he's
on,
bigger than the universe.
unsung
But
hero, right? Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know.
One.
Like I said, it would be great to see. I think I just want like Loki's done so much, and we talked about learning self love from being with Sylvie. I still kind of want him to get that acknowledgement, like someone to know he did this, like someone he knew that, like Thor basically
I
is the main person
think that.
that knows, or even Heimdall. I'll take Heimdall, like being able to see him or something. Like he
Okay,
can
you
see
mean
everything,
someone from
right?
his old
Oh
life?
god, you
I
mentioned
Yeah,
feel.
Heimdall and TJ's
Oh, because
just
I was
got
gonna say, like,
his
I feel like
smile.
at the very least, the TVA people, like, they're aware. Like, there's a
yeah.
whole
No,
mural
I mean
about.
like someone who knows like what Loki used to be to this. Like that's.
Mobius.
I
No, but
mean,
like,
I
no,
think that's
like
when we get
part
that
of
Thor
someone
reunion,
personal to him, right?
when we
I
Like
get
think
that
that's
that's
why I
Thor
part
mentioned
of the
reunion,
Heimdall.
I think that's kind of part of the poetry of it, though, and like kind
Yeah.
of like what Mo was saying, how no, like his victory comes outside of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And when Loki started this journey, his whole thing was he wants the throne, he wants to rule, he wants to be recognized as an equal to Thor, a fellow Odinson, right? And through
Yeah.
the journey of this show, he comes to realize, and he says it to Sylvie, like, I don't want the throne, but he's forced to take it. And I think that concept was very well done, and again it just brings Loki's character kind of full circle. It's like he gets what he wants, but not in the way that he originally wanted it, right? And I think, again, having no one know that is kind of the poetry of it all. Like when he took
Yeah.
over New York, he wanted everyone to know, like, I am Loki, I am the god, I am that dude. So I think the fact that no one will know, and that he is kind
Yeah.
of just forced to hold this position for seemingly eternity, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah. No,
it's
it's
funny you mentioned. Sorry, go on.
no, sorry, go on. I was just
Uh,
gonna say
I was like,
it's
it's just funny you mentioned that, because someone mentioned this earlier. The whole thing that Tom Hiddleston actually auditioned for Thor, and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's the show accidentally becomes meta on itself when you realize Loki goes through that journey with Thor, but then Tom Hiddleston himself also goes through the same journey, wanting to play Thor, but
Hmm.
again, he is not Thor, he's Loki. But by the end of it, right now, Loki is kind of like so central to the entire MCU at this
Pretty
point.
much, yeah. Yeah, no, that's
Literally
good. Like,
holding it together.
that's poetic and like that's literal, like glorious purpose. But yeah, I think we better leave it there before I get cooked for how much
Yeah, I'm
editing
just looking at the
this is
time.
gonna take. Um, but yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on across this episode and all the other episodes. It's been great chatting to you guys.
Say one
I've loved the
thing.
show, and obviously you guys listening as well. Message us, tweet us your favorite moments from Loki, what you thought about the episode, where you want him to show up next, and stuff. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Remember, on Popcorn for Dinner, we've got episodes for Gen V, the full season done now. We've got episodes for Invincible going out every Friday. On our Is This Cinema podcast, we've got episodes covering David Fincher's The Killer. We've got an interview with Jordan Pitt and Lee Daly from Untold Stories, Hair and Set. And we've got an episode covering Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. And yeah, a lot of other fun stuff for you guys to check out. But yeah, thank you guys again for coming on. Just thank you, Mo. Tell the guys where they can find you. Anything you want to plug for the fans
You can find me nowhere.
on X? On X? Come on, plug
No,
it.
nah, I don't. I don't need to plug. You'll see me. I'll post some insane take somewhere, and it'll get and then I'll say some random shit online, and then someone will pick it up and then run with it or whatever. So that's what we'll go with it. You'll
Fairs,
find me.
fairs,
Don't
fairs.
worry about it.
Thanks, thanks for coming
Thank
on,
you
man.
for asking me to come on so many
Oh, it's
times.
a
I
pleasure. It's a
appreciate it.
pleasure. It's a
Got
pleasure. It's a
some.
pleasure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna force my hand and say, force your hand and make me come on for another one. But it's been really, really good. Thank you guys for
Yeah,
the
no,
season.
definitely.
Nice.
Definitely. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. TJ, thanks for coming on as well. Anything you want to tell the guys to check out?
I just want to say again, thank you guys for having me. This has been so much fun. I'm always down to nerd out. And again, just thanks for the opportunity. But I mean, as far as where you can find me, the Fat Thor, that's where I am pretty much everywhere. You can check out my crazy comic ramblings over at the streamer, where I have a bunch of comic book articles, breakdowns of
So
all
many,
the
so many.
episodes. And then you can also find me at the Sons of Milnir, is the podcast that I host. We do all comic book media, comic book content, creator interviews, all that kind of stuff. So find me anywhere. Let's talk nerd stuff.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. And Jeremiah, it's only me and you who've been on every single episode. So it's
Yeah.
been a journey. It's been real.
I mean, it's crazy because we did the finale of season one, wasn't it, as
Oh
well?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then now we're doing the whole season. That's crazy.
Honestly, I
But
saw that the other day. Like when we tweeted out the episode, I just like because I think what was it back in the day? Like they tweeted it out with our pictures. I was like, oh my god, I've aged so much in 2 years. Bloody hell! But
wow.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man. Anything you want to share with the listeners?
I'll say the same thing I said in the first episode. Stay tuned. You can follow me on I'm Jero_A on pretty much everything known to man that I have anyway. Um, and yeah, like we could talk about any TV shows that I actually watch, which is a lot of them. But I'm always happy to come back on Popcorn for Dinner. Like you guys keep welcoming me back, so it's great to always do an entire season or an episode here and there. It's cool. So I'm looking at the time now, but yeah, I'm just glad to be here. And we'll see you next time. It might be a Disney show, it might be something else, or maybe something I really enjoy. I can convince Banky to just like add more stress to his own head in editing, but like I'll find a way.
Yeah, I want to thank him as well. Thank you to
Honestly.
the owner and producer of this podcast for all of the work that he's done.
Yeah,
I'm
props
sure
to Banky.
if you guys
I
have
don't
got a
think he
Patreon or
wanted
something or something, just open it up and give him to some
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
because I think
definitely.
he wasn't planning to do Loki, was he? It was like all of us just
Yeah,
individually
we
mentioned
just
it, so
begged
we
him.
just like, okay, fine, you guys go do Loki.
So yeah, so thank you, Colin, for allowing us to use your platform. And yeah, thank you guys for listening to all our episodes. And like I said, check out all the cool stuff we've got. Keep it tuned to Popcorn for Dinner for all your movie and TV reviews and recommendations. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's been a great season. And till next time, take care.
It's been real.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.